All right, on this episode of Top Tier Tips, we're going to talk about leading by example, and I am going to document my recovery from a recent injury, one that's fairly bad, in fact, and show you that the things that I teach are, in fact, what I do in my real life. I am a man who does exactly what I say and teach, and it's very important to lead by example for me. In fact, I tell the people that I teach that it's important that you watch people, that you study their behavior, you pay attention to what they do and how they behave, and you will find that many people, the words they use, the things they say, are different than how they behave. And in my opinion, in my life, I've found that following people who say certain things but then behave differently, those are not people that we should follow and until they have sort of figured out their own path. Many people do behave differently than what they say they do out of all sorts of fears. Usually there's a lot of insecurity, and there's a fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of rejection. And so they play a character in their own lives, pretending to be a particular person rather than showcase who they actually are. And so it's easy to see through those things as you just study human behavior, watch people repeatedly, and you will see who they are in front of your eyes because of how they behave, and that directly reflects their values in their lives. So in this particular case, we're dealing with an injury. So I always talk about when you're injured, don't stop moving, all right? That's one of the big tenets. So recently I injured this elbow. I've injured the ligament, the UCL ligament inside this elbow. I did it, I don't actually know how it happened. It didn't happen during any particular weightlifting movement. But last night when I was showing a stretch in the middle of 5:30 class for their warm-up, I showed the stretch, talked through it, taught it, and then about 5 minutes later I noticed that this elbow suddenly sort of locked up. I don't have any pain at all, but if we compare arms, just so you can see the difference, so here's my right arm, and I can flex it all the way and get in a front rack, and I can lock the elbow out right into full extension. This arm, this is as far as I can bend it, so you notice that I can't get my hand to my shoulder, right? That's literally all I can do. It just feels like it's stuck. And then this is as straight as it can get. So, that arm should be a little bit more extended. So you can see that flexion is much worse than extension. So inside the joint itself is a ligament. There's actually more than one, but only one of them seems to be damaged. How do I know? Because I went to Dr. Jones and got him to assess me today, and we came to that conclusion. So what's my prescription? Well, part of it is resting this elbow to a degree so that the ligament can heal, which means not doing anything particularly strenuous with this. And that's going to last at least 2 weeks. So I'm basically going to be lifting one arm for the next 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks. All right, and then I will slowly reintegrate my lifting at a much slower pace than I did when I was prior to this injury. So immediately I started moving. So all today I've been dosing small amounts of movements so that I can get blood flow into the tissue, because as we all know, the capillary density of ligaments and tendons are extremely small, and so the more flow of blood I can get in here, the better. But I do have to avoid pain, and I don't need to do anything particularly strenuous, right? It just needs to be moving up the tissue, right? So I can get fluid going in and out of the tissue, so the blood brings in the nice, good stuff to heal, and the lymphatic system brings all the bad stuff out to be processed and taken out of my body. So here are some things I've been doing, all right, for this injury. All day, literally a minute or two of stuff all throughout the day, just like dosing medication. So one thing has been taking my arm and just grabbing a bar and gently bearing some of my weight, so my feet are on the ground, and then hanging a little bit, so a portion of my weight, and then coming up and bending the elbow, and then letting some of my weight go down. I'll hold, I'll be playful, right? But I can't hang. Like, I definitely can't hang. That's painful, that's too much. Because remember, I can't straighten this arm yet. But me putting some tension on the tissues is helping get blood flow in it, and it's also encouraging the tissues to continue adapting to go back to its original place. Other things I've been doing, a teacup drill. So we use this, I've used this many times for elbow and shoulder stuff. So imagine holding a teacup of water here, and I'm not allowed to spill that water. So I'll rotate. I can go either direction. So I'm trying to keep my palm up as I do this. All right. Palm up the other direction. And I just do this a bunch of times throughout the day. And it's just a nice, the reason why I picked this, there's nothing special about this. It's just a way for me to move the shoulder and the elbow and the wrist in a big range of motion that's pain-free. So I'm getting lots of fluid moving throughout that system. The other thing I've been doing is I've been grabbing the skier handle today, and then, little bits at a time. Nice thing about the skier is there's no real resistance on this. This is similar to a tricep press down, but it's like I'm using almost no weight, right? So I'm just grabbing a handle, right, and I'm, for maybe 60 seconds at a time, doing flexion and extension at the shoulder and the elbow. And I'm being sure to listen to my body so that I'm not going too far into flexion and too far into extension, right? So me repeatedly doing this is helping getting blood and lymphatic fluid in and out of the area to speed that healing process. So over the next several weeks, I'll make multiple videos sort of updating my progress. The one thing I do want to touch on before I go is sort of up here in the brain. So, I'm a person whose identity is sort of wrapped around my ability to move and to teach movement. And when you take an injury like this, which is a relatively serious injury, even though it came on sort of unexpectedly for a reason that no one would have predicted, it can mess with me in here. It can mess for all of us. And so it's important that when all of us get injured, we understand that it's an opportunity to grow, right? As with everything in life that's a struggle, it's an opportunity to grow and evolve as a person, become a better person. So I decided that instead of whining about the fact that I can't use this arm, and that removes a lot of exercises from my training library right now, it gives me an opportunity to work on things that I would have probably neglected. For example, I can start working on my immobility around my shoulder, my lat, and my thoracic mobility. So my ability to move the middle of my back into flexion and extension, right? If I improve my mobility here in the middle of my back, I'll improve my rack position, making it less likely to have a re-injury of the elbow when I do things like front squats and push presses. It also gives me the ability to focus on more single arm stuff, single-sided things. All right, so unilateral work instead of as much barbell movement. And I can focus a little more on some gymnastics-y stuff too that don't involve my arms as much. So I can turn it into a positive thing. The fact that I'm making these videos is a way to motivate myself to keep working through this instead of sort of getting depressed and down on myself, because I can turn this into a teaching opportunity for many other people and show that, again, I'm leading by example. These are the things that I'm doing, and if you ever get into a similar situation, these might be some things that you can do. Just like I'm doing in front of you, I'm not special, and so you will be injured one day if you haven't already been, and it's important to redirect the negative thoughts in here and spin them and the motivation outside of yourself in a way that keeps you working on yourself so that you continue to grow and evolve as a person and not just an athlete. So stay tuned for more updates on my progress. I'll probably make a couple videos a week showing either different things I'm doing or talking a little bit about the methods of recovery I'm using. You better believe that as soon as I learned that this is a ligament injury, I started thinking about it's time to sleep more, eat better, pull in some supplements and other recovery techniques that will speed up the healing process and not make it just about physical movement. All right, so there's lots of different tools I'm using to speed up this process of healing in here. I'm not just sitting around depressed, hating on myself and complaining about the things that I can't do. All right, so stay tuned for more. As always, comment on Facebook or Instagram, or if you need my help with anything, reach out on the cell. It's 443-742-1224.